The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
Hello, quiet, please, thank you. I know people. So we have a special meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the town of Berlin today, October 15th, 6:45, for the following purpose. To obtain approval of the unbudgeted appropriation of $444,000 of the fiscal year 2020 assigned fund balance to transfer to other funds in the general fund. So we need to do first an election of a moderator. Nominations from the floor.
Nominate the mayor.
Thank you. Have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. Nominations closed. Anyone else? Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Not me. I'm not voting for myself. Eligibility to vote. So this is a town meeting. Any person who is an elector of such town and any citizen of the United States of the age 18 years or more who jointly or severally who is liable to the town for taxes assessed against him or her on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town. That's Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-6. So you're able to vote. And Kate, you'll notice.
A special meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the town of Berlin will be held at the Berlin Town Hall, Council Chambers, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut, on Tuesday, October 15, 2019, at 6:45 p.m. for the following purpose: to obtain approval of the unbudgeted appropriation of $444,000 of the fiscal year 2020 assigned fund balance to transfer to other funds in the general fund. Dated Berlin, Connecticut, this third day of October 2019.
Thank you. Is there a resolution to come before the town meeting?
Okay, I resolve that an unbudgeted appropriation in the amount of $444,000, as requested by the interim town manager and in accordance with Section 7-11 of the Berlin Town Charter, be appropriated from the fiscal year 2020 assigned fund balance to other funds in the general fund.
Thank you. We have a second on that? Thank you very much. So now we have discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen of the audience and fellow councilors, this is some money that we want to use to pay off some short-term notes so we can pay down our debt a little bit and obviously save on interest costs. So we're taking some money out of our unassigned fund balance, $444,000 of it, and paying off a short-term note so we get it off our balance sheet. So that's what we are here for. Is there any discussion now of the resolution? Anybody have any other questions or? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the resolution that is on the floor. And so we'll take all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. And that will, we had our vote, so the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our town council meeting. We could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. I thought you silenced that. What happened?
I told him I shouldn't be allowed to have them.
Oh, gosh.
Roll call, Kate, you would?
Councilor Angelica Stetson.
Here.
Councilor Giannoni.
Here.
Mayor Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Luddy.
Here.
Councilor Pagliaro.
Here.
Councilor Payanessa.
Here.
Councilor Rosso.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So we'll start this evening with our audience of citizens. So there are people who have signed in. We'll go with them first. And we have Mr. Bob Zipadelli, first on the list. Go see the Board of Finance.
My name is Bob Zipadelli, 6 Schultz Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Yeah, I'm here tonight to talk about the ladies' baseball, softball field up at Sage Park. I know it's been through the Park and Rec, and there's been discussions with them. And I just wanted to let the council members know about my support. The other fields up there are in pristine condition, Scalise Field and Zipadelli Field. And as far as the ladies, it leads many things to be desired. There's no building there, meaning that bathroom facilities, you have to go outdoors and use an outdoor facility. No concession, no sound system. And as far as the field, because of the lack of other fields in town, other teams, soccer teams, have been using that field to the detriment of that softball field. And I took some pictures, which I'll leave with Charlie. You can take them and pass them on. It just shows you what's happening to the field. Same thing that happened at the baseball field. And they had soccer teams, and a steady group that kept coming in, and it did damage to the field, and they had to put a stop to that. So maybe the only solution for the women's field is to put turf down, and with the turf, then at that point you can have teams that can use the field as well. So I just wanted to just let you know that the ladies' field needs a lot of improvement, and I see we have support from the ladies here tonight, and that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bob. Next on the list, we have Robin Kopp.
Hi, my name is Robin Kopp, 65 Division Street, East Berlin, Connecticut, 06023.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, how are you? These people have come because I help coach. I also had the honor of playing on Stage 1 in high school, where we had 3 state championships. And I don't think that the field has been touched since I was in high school, which was 1988 when I graduated. My parents and all the spectators that come that are avid at coming to the softball games at Sage 1, my parents are, I want to say, 72 and 74, and they have to use an outhouse to go to the bathroom. And I kind of already presented to Park and Rec, then we went to the Board of Finance. And I just want to take you through the experience that I experienced so you guys can understand. I was born and raised in Berlin. I'm passionate about Berlin. I'm passionate about raising good girls in Berlin, okay, that are going to go on to college, some of these girls, and play college softball. But our fields are nowhere comparable to the boys' fields, okay? An example I have from this season was our left fielder, Casey Uriga, whose mother is here, was trying to catch a ball, and we didn't even have enough lights in the lighting. So she missed the ball. She's a great athlete. It was in a shadow, and she missed the ball. Okay, that wasn't because of Casey. It was because of the actual terrain and the lighting that the field offered. Now, I do want to say that the town of Berlin, Park and Rec, Public Grounds, and Doug Solik have done everything they can do within their power to beautify it, to be cost effective. However, that is not enough to make us even comparable. People come into the town to use those fields, and that's the first field they comment on, that it's kind of in disarray. So my experience, and then I'll close, all these people are here based on me, from coaching from Little League in this town all the way up to Mike, who's helping coach high school now because I could not commit to it. We were playing Bristol Central High School. They came into our town. There was a lot of people from Bristol as well from Berlin spectating. In order for us to do the national anthem, somebody had a 2-foot flag that you would use at a cemetery. So I was embarrassed there. I actually had tears in my eyes. So this started the whole process. Okay, we have no PA system. A gentleman from Aetna Healthcare, whose daughter played on the team, was designated to bring the PA system that we had to plug in probably 200, 300 feet to a source of power. So after that game, that kind of started this whole thing for me and for the girls. I know you guys all know about Title IX. I know you know what's going on with Jim Calhoun now at St. Joe's. I don't want to have to use Title IX because I think this town is about the kids and about improvement and beautifying it. And so far, we're doing a good job. But now, what has happened over the years, I'm just coming into all this because now I'm a mom watching my daughter on the field, is that every year it's put into budget, it's the first thing to get slashed. So if you guys want to, you can walk up and look at Zippadelli Field. I just gave $500 to Zippadelli Field because it's in honor of Mr. Zippadelli's father. Not because the field needed it, but because it was in honor of his father. Our field needs way more help. Okay, so that's why we're all here to ask for it. I don't know what we need to do next. I wanted this to be a quick process so that it doesn't take years for the girls that are there to experience a beautiful field. So that's as far as me saying what I need. It's pretty self-explanatory from an adult standpoint and children's standpoint.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
And next we have Donna Bove on the list.
So you'd think this was staged, and honestly it wasn't, but in any event, I'm Donna Bove, 85 Steepleview Drive in Berlin. I'm also chair of the Park and Rec Department. So I was planning to come tonight because obviously we've had various discussions have taken place on the use of the surplus and potential future bonding projects. And as all of you know, Parks and Rec's #1 capital item is Sage 1, which is the softball field. It has been that way for a while. But like most capital items, our capital projects are pushed off due to limited funds. So we've heard what Robin has expressed and Bob Zippadelli has expressed. We've heard that loud and clear really over the last few Parks and Rec departments. And in some cases, to be fair, the Parks and Rec department was not aware of certain of the issues that they've raised, like the lights being out. Those are things that should be fixed and would have been jumped on, but unfortunately we weren't notified of those types of things. But the basic field is a mess, and just generally it's a mess because we use that field for so many other things than softball. It is designed to be a varsity softball field. Youth football uses that every night because it's a lighted field. Obviously we have limited lighted fields in this town. So youth football, now think of all their equipment is at Sage. So they can't move their equipment to another field in town every night and bring it back to Sage and store it. So right now they're using Sage 1. They always have used Sage 1. And the use of their equipment and their play in the outfield destroys the outfield. Okay? We've looked, our department has looked a number of times to try and figure out, even, we looked at our last meeting. Even if we move ahead with fixing Sage 1 with grass, continuation of the grass, fix the lip, fix all the physical things along with the building and some electrical things that are needed, it's not going to fix it because football's still going to have a need. And it's youth football. Not the high school football, it's youth football. Okay? That's where they practice at night. We also use it for lacrosse. We also use it, when we can get other teams out there in the outfield, we use it. Now, as we've spent money by this town, our Park and Rec department is really trying to protect those fields that we put money into. So, for instance, Zippadelli, it's grass, it's baseball. We put a lot of money into that field a few years back. We now limit the play on that field to just baseball because we used to have soccer. That's why it was destroyed. So we're trying to protect. As we do Sage 1, and I'm hopeful, working with the Fields Committee and all of you on the Town Council, that Sage 1 will get done. And it has to get done within the next year. We need to have a plan and move ahead. So by doing so, we then have to protect Sage 1 and only use what it's meant to be used for. But there's an alternative. And although the alternative might be more expensive than what we have in our capital budget, which by the way is $400,000 to $500,000, with a study that we want to do to perfect those numbers, we believe we need another turf field. And we believe that Sage 1 is the best field to turn into turf. Why? Because it's lighted. What can you do with a lighted softball turf field, including the infield? You can use it for multi-purposes. You can have football practice in the outfield without destroying the softball field because it's turf. When you have a team playing football in the fall, like now, and then you go into a very early high school softball season, there is no time to repair the field. So we are wasting money trying to think that we can throw down seed and replant grass for all of you. It's not going to work. So you need turf. And again, it's expensive, but what do you get? You get long term, just like we do in the football field, right? I mean, it is beautiful. It's the best way to go. And you have limited maintenance, which, by the way, as we all know, we can't increase our staff for all these fields and all this work. So let's do the right thing. Although it spends more, the cost is going to be better. We're going to have better playing fields. We could possibly outsource that if people wanted to go and pay for use of that field. But at least our in-town sports will have multi-uses of that field. You can use it 24/7. Okay? So that's what we're recommending. That's something I know for you guys to really think about. But don't go and waste money on grass and fixing the field. I think the guys that are sitting on the Fields Committee have a better understanding. So we'd really like to move. Money's been limited, but we have to make the improvements at Sage 1, no doubt. And that's number one. Nothing else until Sage 1 gets done. That's our recommendation. Number two, I'm not going to steal their thunder, but the Golf Commission will be coming forward and talking, and I just want to let you know that Parks and Rec is fully supportive of the Golf Commission and their thoughts about the anniversary of Timberland next year, 50th anniversary, and in fact, we'll participate and help in any way we can. So we look forward to a good celebration, and from a Parks and Rec department, I'm excited because that's going to kick it off so that as a town, we can then celebrate our parks and our community with other things. Food Truck Mondays, things like this that I think we can have a lot of fun, and we haven't, done that. But I think these guys, they have a great idea for Timberland, and then we move forward. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions, be glad to help in any way.
Thanks, Dono.
Hey, Donna, just one quick question. Just, obviously, a major fix to the field is necessary. We get that part. But I'm curious why there's a breakdown of if the lights don't work, how come no one knows to fix that? I mean, that I don't understand. That's
Yeah.
That's a maintenance issue, at least for now.
Yeah.
How would we not know to go replace the lights?
So-
The lights were out, like light bulbs were out?
They've been out for years.
Yeah, you can come
Go
back
ahead,
up.
Robin, you
Yeah.
can- yeah, go ahead.
You got to come up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's okay. Because that's
It's really no fault of the town because I've worked with Doug Solik, who's on top of everything. There's no longer the replacement parts for the age of our lights. So that's why they want to go to LED. He's looked high and low to fix it, and where'd we meet last week, Douglas? And he's looking everywhere to find the parts, but they're in limited amounts.
I get it.
Maybe nationwide because they're that old.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So again, this has been on a list, but
Yeah.
when the initial lights went out,
Right.
there wasn't notification. And unfortunately, it went on, and unfortunately, it cost you a run or whatever.
When did the initial lights go out? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, come.
Like.
I can only tell you as a parent, when my daughters played on that field,
Yeah.
I would call Parks and Rec. Len was the chair at that time even. I'd call Len after I called the director of Parks and Rec at the time and said, get someone down here right now and get these lights going. And there's an electrical issue underground that causes things, it's just one of those things. Doug knows better because it's a facilities issue. But again, he's worked very well with Parks and Rec as well to try and fix things as we go forward. So there have been improvements on that field, substantial improvements. The Public Grounds and Park and Rec Department have really worked on a list that we've been working with Robin and everybody else on softball, and Jason Pyrus, I see, is here, he's the coach. And there's been a lot of good progress as we've tried to focus as time permits. But can't put turf in without money.
Yes.
I'm sitting here thinking about things because I came from a soccer game.
That's all right.
And the last thing is we had no working scoreboard all season, which is kind of because there's an electrical problem, and the scoreboard has been there since 1988 or before. So it's kind of embarrassing when you're having a state-of-the-art softball or even a state game there, and there's no lit up scoreboard. So, I mean, I think the take home is if you go there and look at the football field and you look at the baseball field and then you walk over to the softball field, you'll feel sorry for us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Poulin, 88 Madabassett Street in East Berlin. I'm also from the softball team. I just want to say, as a player, I feel highly disappointed when it comes to the status of our field at Sage. As an upperclassman, I've been here for 3 years and I've seen no improvements on the fields at our field, but have seen numerous improvements on all the other fields at Sage. If you knew anything about our team, you would know that our girls work just as hard as any other team at Sage, and it's really frustrating to walk on our softball fields and know that we have no support. Just by walking around, you can see how run down our fields are compared to the others. How is it that the public is allowed to use our fields, especially during our season, yet as soon as the baseball team is done with their practice or game, the field is completely locked and no one can access it? Before and during our season, we have to see alcohol bottles in our dugouts, yet that would never happen on the baseball field because no one's allowed to get in. Also, our varsity field is completely uneven, which makes it dangerous for our outfielders and our opponents. To add on to that, the grass in the outfield is completely unkept, and it looks like it honestly has been cut about every 2 weeks. In conclusion, if you care about the softball program and the female athletes at Berlin High School, you would put more effort into our fields. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Real good job.
Great job. Anyone else? On this issue, or any issue? Yes.
Len Zielinski, 24 Winesap Road, past chairman of the Park and Rec Commission. Spent 33 years on Park and Rec. Just kind of, people probably don't remember, but maybe 5 to 8 years before we got our first artificial turf field at Scalise, we had a major overhaul on that field with drainage and then trying to build turf. And it just didn't work on Scalise. The kind of usage that it got, it was getting used by football and by midgets. And during the fall, if you have a wet fall, it just obliterates the field. Scalise Field is looking good now, and while Park and Rec Commission in the past worked with the Berlin Youth Soccer to only use it 2 nights a week because of the lights at Scalise, all right? And during on the weekends when they play games, there was no need to have it because you had 2 days of full daylight. Unbeknownst to us, the previous Park and Rec director was renting that field out to an adult soccer team. And that's really what obliterated it. Now, and when you talk about Sage 1, everybody's right on the money. We've seen that since Robin's talk in the early 80s. I think midget football went through a decline during that period of time, and we really didn't see a lot of abuse to the field as we're seeing now. But that thing is used constantly, and you're using right into the fall, into November, and there's no growing season really to let the grass reestablish itself. You'll never have turf. If we were to take and try to with natural grass redo the field, I think we're just throwing money away. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, anyone else on this or any issue? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens and, just, we're glad that you come to the council like this, believe it or not, because if we don't hear this from people, our citizens, we don't know what goes on. It doesn't always filter up to us. I mean, we know, we live in the community, our kids play sports. I mean, we all hear things and see things, but, and I always wish, I've told people this now for 4 years, come to council meetings, talk to the council, get your thoughts out there. We want to hear it. And more importantly, an issue like this, I wish you all came to the budget hearings this year, because that's where we're making the budget decisions. And that's where, when we hear things like this, that's how we know what to do with our budget. That's how we know what to do, what's a priority. So that's good. It's great you come and tell us. Right now we're obviously into this year's budget, but that's not to say nothing, something can't be done. But that's why we always wish people come to, all the different hearings, and I know it's difficult to do. Everybody's busy, and we all get that. We've got a million things to do, after work and with our kids and whatever else we're doing. But, so it's good to hear this. It sounds like there's been, some failures with different things. I mean, if this field has been the same since the 80s, oh my God, right? And we faced that with several things in town this last 2 or 3 years. Like the police radio was 30 years old, the fire radio was, we go on and on with things that just have been ignored. So we certainly have a capital plan to fix things. And this is obviously something we need to fix. And you're right, we just spent $1 million on, returfing the football field. We just fixed Zipadelli Field. So, and I understand from Donna, we've had a couple of conversations about this, that this is number 1 on the list from Park and Rec. So, yeah, that is a lot of weight given to that and to the council and to the Board of Finance when the budget season is upon us. So, and now too, we're into the budget, but it's difficult now when we're into our budget season, but it's something we need to certainly look at and fix. There's no question about it from what we've heard. But so, I always wish though, just in my few years here on the council, that all of us want people to come here. We really want people to come and tell us these things. So I'm glad you came, and I'm glad, we get it out here. And
Yeah.
that gives us a priority. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, this is great. This is activism, what you just did. You guys are all being activists, whether you realize it or not. So, your voices make a difference. As far as budget hearings, we don't even want to be at budget hearings, but, but the fact that you're here now just, is informative and, will give us a basis to start getting something done for you guys.
Do we have costs, if you want to turf it, I guess we kind of know what a turf field costs. Yeah. Since we just spent $1 million on it. That was a returf. I don't know what the initial cost would be. I don't know what the original, do we know what the original, anybody know the original cost of when we began to turf that field? I have no idea if it would be the same price or more. I don't know if the replacement's more or less. Len, I don't know if you'd know, like the original, when we turfed that? 1.4 mil. Okay, in the beginning?
Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. A little bit more, I'm sure, more prep work, obviously, than returfing it, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things is, the Park and Rec Commission last Thursday, and I think it might be in your packet, we're asking to use about $10,000 in non-recurring funds to study the field. But not included in that is turf, because what we were asked to do is take a look at what we need immediately to take care of things, and it includes like the scoreboard fixes, the light fixes, the field fixes, but grass and things like that. So Parks and Rec wanted to really make sure the costs that they had were, pretty reasonable in the capital budget. So there's like $10,000 request, and I think though, and again, subject to your thoughts, we'd really like to have that just expanded to say turf, because it's really, it's, in my mind, it's a very good option that should be looked at, and that could be just part of this feasibility study.
Can I ask you a question, Donna, please? What about the bathroom situation and the electricity? Would it include looking at that as well?
Yes, that's all in our capital budget that's been in there. That's right. So it includes that. It includes a building. It includes a flagpole. You know, it includes what you would expect at a good facility.
So that it would be more equivalent to that of the boys' fields?
I'm sorry?
It would be more equivalent to that of the boys' field?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, we're like all of us, including the council, to be fair, you know, to the council, everybody wants to do the right thing by everybody here. And so, yeah, no, it includes everything. And, you know, we would make this field a premier field, but again, for multi-uses, not just girls softball, but that would be the primary use of that field. But with limited funds, and limited lighted fields, because to put lights in other fields is very expensive if we were to put in another field somewhere else. This really probably would
That's great.
be a good service to the town. So, anyway.
And I just want to say to you, thank you for having that courage to come up and speak. Thank you.
Sure.
Identify yourself again.
Stephanie Poulin. I think I speak on all of us when it's just confusing to me on if we've been on ongoing issue. I'm just confused on why the baseball field and the football field were put over us all these years. I think I speak for all of us when we all have that. Like, that doesn't really make sense. If we've been ongoing issue since the 80s, it doesn't make sense to me at all. Sorry. So.
Thank you. Sure. Why not? Why not? Of course. Yeah.
My only listening to Donna, I serve on a board of directors with Donna, different stuff, but I feel like if you want to maintain Sage, then if you put money into Sage, money will come back in to maintain Sage, because you can rent these fields out for a good amount of money for Nutmeg games, for leagues that are not destroying the outfield, but actually playing the game of softball on it. So I do feel like anything in that complex could be used as a moneymaker down the line to maintain Sage. So it can go into the Sage fund and just do maintenance. I think we're really good in this town, and we're really passionate, and we love each other. And I feel like we need a maintenance protocol to maintain these going forward, looking proactively instead of reactively on the fields in this town. Thank you.
Thanks. You know, I know we just went through. Oh, come on up. Come on up.
I just want to say one thing. The current turf field, we all know that to be a football field, but lacrosse plays on it, and other sports do play on it. So, you know, when people totally understand your thought, and believe me, I had 2 daughters that played on that softball field, and we had similar issues, and they've gotten worse. There's no doubt over time. In some ways, as Jason can tell you, they've gotten better too. So, but both sexes play on the current turf field, and we would use a future turf field to do the same thing. So, although everybody thinks football, there are other uses of that field, to be fair, okay? And then, anyway, I think, you know, this is great that you guys came out, and to the point of budget, really important, because it all is money. That's just the bottom line. It comes down to money.
I mean, we've done some other fields. Obviously, you know, we did the tennis courts finally. They were a disaster, as well as the basketball court by the high school in conjunction with the new high school. So, yeah, I mean, this is obviously on the list. And just to your point of renting them, we've kind of gone through. I know we've rented them out, and I think we've had some issues. Probably Brendan knows better. He's on the playing. You're on that we kind of been a little nervous about renting them out, because we do make some money, but typically I think we found some of the organizations that come from out of town destroy them more than it's worth renting. But that's a future discussion to have, right? I think we just kind of went through that this year on the calendar. Didn't we just talk about that?
Yep.
So but it's certainly something to think about. But anyway, you know, it's great you came. It's great for the input. It's something we knew. You know, I've been talking to Donna. We know this is the next thing on the list to get done. We're replaced a lot of the fields now, and we put a lot of time and effort into them, and that's the next one that needs to be done. And she told me that was the #1 priority from the Park and Rec, and that's how the process works. All right, they're going to do their feasibility study next, which will tell us what they think needs to be done, and then we go from there. You know, it will come to the council, the Board of Finance, get it in the budget, but that takes a little time. You know, it would be into next year's budget by the time we probably get some of that, or possibly at the end of this year's budget. But short term, you know, it seems like there's some fixes hopefully we can do. And I'm looking at Doug, and he'll tell us that he's a master with it and he does a great job. So I know he can. So if there's short-term fixes, you know, Robin or Donna, that we can do, we should do them. But it probably doesn't make sense from what you're telling us. Everyone else heard it. Say what you want, but it probably looks like we do need to turf it because it's just going to get torn. I'm sure it's getting torn up every year. And I remember, you know, Berlin football, the midget football, the Berlin Bears, they play on it. I remember my son playing on it, so I hear you. So it's a priority, and we'll definitely treat it as such. It'll start with the Park and Rec doing their feasibility study, and then it'll follow through the process. The process, you know, is a little bit. It takes a little bit of time, but we set it as a priority. Then that's something we look at, and you know, we would put that on our capital project list at the top. That's how it works. So we'll be looking at that, and short-term fixes first, I hope, from, you know, lights at a minute. If we can fix the lights, if we can. Sounds like we may not be able to, but if we can find some temporary lights that we need, maybe we do that too before we get the whole field done, at least so you can see, to catch the ball. That would be helpful, right, ladies, I'm sure. So that's where we're at. What do you guys, anything else from the council? Well, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for making us aware of this. And I think in all of our minds up here, speaking for all of us, I think we're all in agreement. It's one of our #1 priorities to get that done for you, for the women's sports. Thank you. So now we will move into, and you're welcome to stay for this very exciting, very lengthy agenda. You don't have to go. We'll take a minute to go ahead and clear the room. Thank you.
They're smart.
Yeah, you're smarter than us up here, ladies, that's for sure.
I think they're just smart.
Put down gravel infield.
Yes.
Years ago. Like nothing's been done there. Got rid of the dirt. It's really, really fine, almost like sand, gravel.
Why is everybody else using it?
We
Why can't we limit it and just
I played men's league softball there at night. But that disappeared probably 2001. The women's league play there at night too. Yeah, the midget football team was I liked practice after school. It's a fall sport. Use that one. They use the baseball.
why don't they move the football over to the turf field? Why is the youth football on there?
I don't think they have enough space.
Because it's lit.
Yeah, it's
They
lit.
practice at
The
night.
turf field's not lit?
You got
Well, theirs is not lit now, right? The
Has to do
softball
with
field is not lit?
It's lit.
my kid played.
That's why they practice in the outfield.
Yeah, there's
Well,
a
why
lot
can't
of teams.
why
that's
can't the youth football use the turf field for now in the short term?
Because the football team's on it, right? I think at
Well,
night?
yeah.
Yeah.
The football field, see,
Not enough time.
midgets vote,
Oh, do you?
midgets practice at night, 2 nights a week, I believe it is.
Right.
But the high school's on there already.
Every night?
Oh, yeah.
Every
During
night.
the season. yeah.
Every night. Oh, yeah.
And, I think it's the right, if we turf it, that solves everybody's problem. Question is, how much is the turf? You know, that's,
She said $500,000.
It's probably $1.5 million.
well, it's just the outfield. See, the infield is dirt on
I
a,
thought we put gravel.
we did the gravel on the field. It's the women,
Yeah.
yeah, all right.
Wait, let's move on.
We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Well, we have in the fields committee. You guys could
Yeah.
work it out with Park and Rec too. You know what we got to do. All right, so let's move on to our consent agenda. There's 2 items on the consent agenda. We've read them. Donations to the Berlin Peck Memorial Library and funds to our police peer support program. So we'll go ahead and take a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2 items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to our new business agenda, the first thing is our
Agenda
Housing
item number 1.
authority.
The report from the Housing Authority. If you
Number
recall, on October 1st, 2 weeks ago, we had an update from the Housing Authority, and we're going to have further discussions with the Housing and Financing Authority in Berlin, and Chairman Podolsky is here to give us an update, and if you can also provide us an update with the sale of the mobile home park, is there anything else that we can do to expedite that?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Coming.
Joe Bajorski, 80 Butternut Lane, Chairman of the Berlin Housing Authority. Council members, thank you very much for having me here once again. Our last meeting at the Senior Center, I told you on October 2nd, we're having a meeting with CHFA. I'm here to report on the results of that meeting. That meeting lasted about 2.5 hours and involved representatives of CHFA, the Connecticut Housing Financing Authority, representatives of the Department of Housing, and also my contractors and other individuals associated with housing in Connecticut. Long story short, they extended our pre-development payback period for 2 years, so that's a positive sign. The current 2019 QAP, Qualified Allocation Plan, that the governor just signed off on for November's application still contains a preclusion for age restrictions. So we would not qualify for senior housing under the 9% tax credit. They're looking at changing that going forward for 2020. They requested our assistance in speaking at their public hearing regarding the changes sometime in November. I intend to get the Commission of Aging to come up to Hartford and speak on the importance of senior housing and affordable options for seniors. The discussion was wide-ranging, and CHFA had some very interesting questions regarding the effect of seniors basically retiring in place in their homes and not being able to downsize into affordable residential units that they could, then free up their homes for starter homes for families and the like. So it was a wide-ranging discussion, and I kind of steered them into the direction of, you guys need to really fund age-restricted housing here, because that's where the greatest need is right now in our community. And that's based on demographic studies, not personal opinion. So after some further discussion, the 4% low-income housing tax credit is the direction they deem us to go. That is an automatic approval upon application, so there's no point system or anything else like that. The only issue arises is the amount of gap between what we need to fund the project and what we can raise in terms of financing. If we go with the 4% model, you're looking at roughly a $4 million gap. Now, those numbers are nebulous right now because I'm relying on numbers that were created several years ago. So we're in the process of updating all those numbers to, make them relevant to the current time frame. In terms of the gap, we discovered that the state may be releasing some monies in January or February for grants to kind of get all the projects they currently have in the pipeline moving. There's several projects, including our own, that are kind of stuck in this pipeline that can't be funded. They have pre-development funds allocated to them, and they can't move forward because of this age restriction. So their priority right now from the Department of Housing is to get these projects out of the pipeline. So as a result, they extended our pre-development period for another 2 years. They suggested we go in the direction of the 4% low-income housing tax credit, provided we can come up with some gap funding. And I'll touch on that shortly. But basically, they also said there's probably going to be some additional monies available in terms of grants and additional financing in 2020 that we could take advantage of. That being said, like I said, our gap right now is about $4 million, give or take. We're looking at a community development block grant funding approach for about $1 million of that. That would be used towards the town would have to apply through that through a contractor. And basically that money would be allocated towards the infrastructure, running the water and sewer and gas and electric onto the site, the road, the parking network, and the sewer catch basins and the like. After that, basically, there'd be some other opportunities we'd have to probably raise another $1 million. So we're about $2 million shy of where we need to be. Mr. Panessa opened up a door that I kind of found intriguing, and he had talked about financing the whole thing at the last meeting. We probably won't need that, but I'm thinking, you know, when we initially started this project, we weren't looking for the town for any money, but if there's a way we can structure some kind of $2 million loan from the town to the housing authority, we can basically fully fund this project. And then that $2 million would probably be reduced based upon what grants monies become available in the 2020 cycle with the Department of Housing. So if we could leverage the town's bonding capacity, that would allow us to basically close the gap and move forward with the project.
What's the total cost of this project?
Roughly $15 million.
That's for both buildings,
Buildings, so
everything,
the entire-
everything in, everything done?
50 units.
25.
It would be the income, they call it a stratified income approach. So basically, we would address a whole host of different income levels from the 30% on up to 80% of area median income.
But this wouldn't be just seniors, it would be low
It
income.
would be seniors.
Seniors.
So it'd be age restricted. See, the 9% has a preclusion against age restriction. The 4% does not. For whatever reason, it's just the way the state DOH kind of crafted their QAP the last year. So we can go in for 4%, and we can age restrict all day long and not have any issues. It's for the 9% where we run into the age restriction problem, and that's where the greatest gap gets developed because there's less money involved. From the 4%, you get less money. 9%, you get more money. There's no gap pretty much once we're done with our financing application. So that's what's been holding us up. I don't know if I've explained that correctly or not.
No,
We did, I probably wasn't
Okay.
understanding clearly.
I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody and go through this. It kind of gets deep into the weeds when you get into this financing process. But
It seems like the state doesn't seem to have a big priority for senior housing, huh?
they did not
Yeah.
the last administration.
Okay.
The current administration is changing things.
Well, that's
Like I said, it was an interesting discussion. It lasted 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it was a fruitful meeting, but they have a bunch of projects in the pipeline that they really need to get funded
Yeah,
to get moved forward. And right now,
that's good.
absent any funding for age-restricted housing, those projects are going to stay in the pipeline. And the legislature is kind of reluctant to give them more money if they have all these projects that they're not spending money on. So, the new housing commissioner is receptive to our arguments, and the CHFA is very interested in where we see demand for housing moving forward, which we have not had that kind of question posed to us in the last administration. So, they really wanted to see our demographic study, which we forwarded to them. They wanted to see why we wanted seniors to, occupy this housing. And again, the discussion was had about, opening up opportunities for families to move into homes which seniors are basically need to downsize and can't maintain the current residence they're in. It kind of freezes the market without any options for seniors to have affordable places to live.
Okay, I'm sure our Wizard of Wall Street, Mr. Delaney, will come up with a way to loan you the money. We'll figure it out, or whatever we have to do.
And this would be a loan; it would be paid back.
Yeah, no,
But it would give us additional points on the process with the town's contribution towards funding.
Yeah, I mean that's great news because we've been stuck in the mud for so
Yeah.
long with the easement trouble that we worked for almost 2 years, and then with the financing, and now there does seem to be some light finally.
There is light, and there's a different, how should I put it? There's a different conversation, a different
that's great.
reception to our pleas
Yeah.
in the
So at
past.
this point, we're waiting to see what we get in January and February?
Well, we're moving forward. My contractors at this point are sharpening their cost estimates for the project, making sure that they're up to date to 2019 industry standards. You know, we're moving forward on the 4% application. We're trying to identify some additional pre-development funding so that we could complete the 4% application. So we're moving, you know, at full speed to get this done. Our goal right now is the 4% application. That being said, we're also in discussions with HUD to see if there's a Section 8 project voucher that we can apply for this project. So if we went in that direction, it would be similar to Marjorie Moore, where you're looking at 30% of the area median income and less, and the difference between the market rate and the senior's ability to pay would be made up through the federal government through a Section 8 project voucher. So that's an option as well that's currently on the table. We haven't foreclosed that as well.
That's great. And I don't want to discount our former CFO from University of Hartford to come up with some way to make this all happen too. I mean, Mr. Delaney, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, right? I mean, obviously it's moving forward finally.
This gets us closer to where we need to be, and like I said, the town's contribution, if we, you know, I mean, listen, if somebody opens the door, I'll walk through it without a problem. My initial attempt was not to get the town to donate any additional monies to this project, but at this point in time, I really have no options. So
Yeah, I mean, so I guess what we need to do is council needs to, you know, see what everyone thinks on the council. Obviously, our finance director and obviously our Board of Finance as well needs to hear the story and see where they sit, you know, whatever the council wants to do and whatever the Board of
again, I'm willing to go to the Board of Finance and make my plea there and bring my financial people along for the ride, so to speak, and you know, maybe put some numbers to paper and come up with a scheme that is acceptable to the council and to the Board of Finance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so long past due, it's hard to even imagine. And talking to the citizen today about it, I mean, I remember we approved this on planning and zoning, I want to say it was 6 or 7 years ago, I want to say, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Well, this is the other thing that
it's
we need to
obscene how
bring
long
up.
it's
We need
taken.
to refresh the application or the approval, and we also need to extend the option agreement because that expires at the end of this month. So, you know, we have to get those 2 items done, and in addition to the financing portion. But
So, what we got, so you got when's the Board of Finance meet? Next week? 19th, and we have a meeting still before the end of the month.
Okay.
So it would be good to get, if the council, you know, thinks that's the way to go, if everyone,
the 19th of October?
yes. Yeah, so you could present, right, 19th of October, Kevin, right, this month? 19th of November 19th. Oh, okay. I wonder if they could do that doesn't help us any. I mean, I just like to get their input before we extend the option, if we could do that by the end of the month, but it'd be nice to present to them, and can we do like a special meeting? I mean, I think it's that important. If the council wants that.
Well, I think you got to.
He's in Italy.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, whatever you can do, if that's what if the council thinks that's the right way to go, I poll the council, what do we think? Yes? Yes? Okay.
I have one question, and I apologize, I wasn't at the meeting on the 1st. I had to work. So was there a deadline that was like right around September 30th, or August 31st, September?
There was. That was for the HUD 202 program.
Okay.
When we got into the nuts and bolts of the HUD 202 program, we found out they changed some of the scheme from prior years. In prior years, they allowed housing authorities to make application for senior housing. This new funding round, they've eliminated the ability of government or loosely affiliated government organizations from making an application. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but basically it excludes housing authorities and town or municipal governments from applying for this money, and basically steered it toward nonprofits, non-governmental nonprofit organizations to develop senior housing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So it sounds like the council has a consensus to move forward with you know, the new financing plan.
Very good.
So hopefully the Board of Finance, remember right there, hopefully they can all get together before our October, what is our meeting, October 29th, I think, and at least present it to them and get their feeling for it before we have to vote to extend the option.
Again, if I'm looking for an option extension, it would probably be 1 year, because, basically, if we're gonna move forward on the 4% tax credit, we should have some kind of word within a year, and if that falls apart, then, the project's pretty much done at that point in time.
Okay. All right, so we can try and work on the Board of Finance and get a special meeting if we could, just to get their input and hopefully agreement, and then we could move on from there. So,
And also I guess you wanted to talk about the mobile home park?
Yeah, just interested if you,
So the housing authority is interested in purchasing it, if you're interested in selling it. And the question is, we need to do some due diligence onto the project and see what the circumstances are of the mobile home park. I've just, have some background information, nothing concrete. So we need to look at the leases and the, title search and things like that.
so you would want to buy it?
We would be interested.
Okay.
It's complementary to our use, providing affordable housing. We have systems in place to maintain the properties, so other housing authorities do maintain mobile home parks, so it's not outside the purview of the housing authority. Basically take it off the town's hands, and, as I understand, it's the only housing authority, or only mobile home park that a municipal entity runs in the state, so.
Berlin's very unique in many ways.
It is. So, we'd be more than happy to take it off your hands. The question is just doing our due diligence and making sure that, the agreements are in place, leases are in place, any reserves, how those would transfer, things like that. I know there's a water line, the street, is that a public street, private street, things like that. All those would have to be ironed out moving forward,
Including in that due diligence is, somewhere there's a codicil in that agreement that when those people who moved there passed or moved, those lots were not supposed to be sold.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's several generations past the initial crew.
It's written somewhere, we better find it.
And that's another thing.
Subject to, any kind of lawsuit.
I think legally that's a question, is if the original establishment of that property required the initial landowners to basically sell and the town would retain ownership, that places a question as to where that property exists at this point in time. I think that's a legal question as to, can that still be a mobile home park, and can it be transferred, or is it no longer a viable mobile home park based on the original documents?
A job for our town attorney
What's on the land records?
to review. I don't know, do we know what's,
Title search, see what's on the land records.
see what's there?
If it's not on land records, it doesn't exist.
I mean, we all have heard that. I guess we don't know. Yeah,
I
we
remember the mayor saying it.
That's right, okay, yeah.
That's how old I am.
I remember it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some language. I've seen a document float around, but I'm not sure if it was ever recorded onto the land records or if it was just part of the original meetings of the minutes. So,
Yeah. No, we appreciate that, because that would take that off the town's hands, which, another piece of property that the town does not need to own, and cost the taxpayers money.
again, that property would revert to a tax-paying property because we do pay taxes on our residential properties
Right.
in terms of a pilot. So that would return that property to the tax rolls, and there
All the better,
yes.
all the better.
How about growing the grand list?
Yes, of course. Always
so what's the time frame for your due diligence? How much time would you need?
You tell me. My priority right now is the Knights of Columbus, to be quite frank, and that's where I'm investing my time and effort on, is to get that property up off the ground. So once, if you want to do something in the first quarter of 2020, I'd be more than happy to, look at that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I know you guys are coming up on budget season too, so there's going to be some distractions there. But
I
yeah,
asked
so
only because the initial conversations took place in 2017, so it'd be nice to
correct.
try to close it soon.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Alright.
first quarter 2020
Yeah.
to sort of complete the transaction.
Yeah, do the due diligence and complete the transaction. I mean, I need to see, like I said, what the reserves are. Are there any debts owed? Are there any pending litigation, things like that that exist with that project? The normal corporate takeover, I guess. You want to see what your risks are and what the assets are that you're acquiring, and go from there.
Okay, any other questions?
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Have a nice
very
night.
much
Thank
for coming.
So, should I move on to item number 2?
Topic 2, yes.
Topic number
How
2.
many are left tonight? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've got like 20-something.
Yeah, too many.
So, at the last meeting, Mr. Mayor, you asked the Director of Finance to look into the options of refunding some of the surplus money back to the residents or taxpayers. And the Wizard of Wall Street has
Mr. Wall Street is
got,
here. Here he is.
3
the
different
Wizard of Berlin.
options,
Here we are.
and he's going to explain what our options are.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Before getting into the options, I think it's important to understand where the surplus came from and what that ultimately means for uses of any surplus. As I do every time I'm talking about the surplus, I do want to emphasize the first word. This is projected. We are still being audited, and as you're all, I'm sure, keenly aware at this point, the largest taxpayer in town has filed a tax suit, and we are intending to go to court. We are just too far apart. That represents a significant variable in the town's financial picture, not just going forward from a grand list perspective, but potentially, if the determination of that suit were against us, looking back as well. As you look at the document that I passed out tonight, 2/3 of the surplus is driven by one-time items. And these are one-time items, many of which have been in the works for quite a while. You'll recall the budget matter that happened in 2017. It was a bit of a mess. And at the very end of the 18-19 budget being adopted, the town got word that the funding that we had expected to be flat or down to the prior year was better than expected. The legislature had worked together in a bipartisan fashion and had tried to return all of the money that had been cut in the previous years to municipalities across the state, including Berlin. The Board of Finance and the Council at that point elected not to incorporate that money into the budget and rather directed the town manager and the superintendent to be prudent in using the funds throughout the year. We've now come to the end of that fiscal year, and I think based on what the Board of Ed was able to do with some surplus funds at the end and deal with some capital matters that they were dealing with, as well as some of the items that we've dealt with over the last 3 or 4 months and are now sitting with a surplus, I think both the town and Board of Ed follow that directive and has helped to drive to this point. That said, we shouldn't expect that we're going to see $700,000 of better ECS money every year going forward than we budgeted. The second piece would be the tax sale. We started having discussions in the tax sale in January of 2018. Internally in staff, I actually started having discussions with every person that I was interviewing for the open tax collector position. We'd had success in 2014 generating some revenue there, and we expected to have similar success, but we also knew that we had more than $3 million of back taxes on the books. Fast forward, the sale performed better than we possibly could have expected. All that credit, I think, goes to the tax office and their diligence throughout that entire process. The first night of the 1920 budget, when I presented the revenue to the Board of Finance, you can see a quote on the document I handed out, which is actually an excerpt directly from the minutes. We talked about the money that was there, and as from the very start, the recommendation was this should be viewed as one-time revenue. Once somebody's current on their taxes, they're current. And that is an opportunity for the town to address substantial debt level and a severely underfunded pension plan. third piece was employee vacancies. These were significant unplanned vacancies. The police department had several vacancies at the start of the year, some due to workers' comp, some due to long-term medical, and some due to natural attrition. I can tell you that the former town manager and I both separately had conversations with every department head who had an opening. And as you go into the budget, understanding what's driving that gap is critical, because if we were not to budget salary, benefits, and other related items, then we'd essentially be saying that the position is not going to be filled. The town faces a similar situation today. Unfortunately, our planner has elected to move to another town. When we go from the process of today until we replace the former planner, we should expect that we're going to save salary, health insurance, and the like. That surplus in the planning department is not going to be assumed in the next budget. We're going to assume, hopefully, before that, we've filled the position, and we're going to assume that that position will remain filled. So while we may have a surplus, we shouldn't expect that that piece of the surplus will continue. The other two pieces are potentially recurring, and one would be interest. The interest that we've earned was well in excess of what was in the budget. At the start of the budget process for 1920, we had a number of discussions in the initial Board of Finance meeting, and I recommended being conservative, partially because that's my nature, partially because even the Federal Reserve can't agree on what they're going to do with interest rates. So I'm not going to sit here and prognosticate what's going to happen with interest rates. But we also knew that we had millions of dollars of projects that were going to tap into unassigned fund balance. We have tremendous state grants, from DOT to DECD to OPM, various states, as well as the Fishway grant from a federal or quasi-federal agency. All are great accomplishments, very valuable, but they're all reimbursable. So in order to earn the interest, your interest rates have to stay high, but you also have to keep the money. And so in looking at the budget, my recommendation was to increase the assumption, but to also be conservative, knowing that we were going to be putting quite a bit of money out and then seeking reimbursement. I bring all this up as a backstop because I think it's critically important that as you consider what to do with the money, understanding the one-time nature necessitates not doing something that will leave a hole in next year's budget. So following the meeting, I spoke with a number of people, but the most important one I spoke with was our town attorney to understand what we're legally permitted to do. We do refund money. For example, our file that we receive from DMV each year often has motor vehicles from one town that belong to us or were given to us and belong to another town. And when residents make us aware of that and it's corrected, we refund the money. So we're able to provide refunds to correct errors. And certainly we're able to make adjustments if there's a court settlement and we have a retroactive element to that settlement. However, there's nothing in the state statutes which grants municipalities the authority to issue a refund check or put a credit on next year's tax bill because of a surplus. I guess, Jeff, I don't know if there's anything you want to add or...
No, I mean, basically, you look at the municipal powers section of the general statutes in Title VII, and you also look at 12-81, which sets forth a variety of exemptions, credits, and abatements to look for some authority to refund or credit tax revenue that's been collected due to the existence of a surplus. And there's just no statutory authority. There's no authority, likewise, under the charter in that scenario. You know, what Kevin describes as various scenarios where the town credits or refunds money, you know, tax appeals. There's a statute 12-117A, and pursuant to 12-117A, when the court enters a judgment and there's by the result of a reduction to the assessment, what's deemed to be an overpayment of taxes because of the reduced assessment, that the town has a legal obligation to provide a credit to the taxpayer. Likewise, when we settle a tax appeal, we enter into a stipulated judgment that provides for credit for any overpayment of taxes. The programs under which various credits and exemptions and abatements are given, whether it's senior tax credits, veteran tax credits, volunteer firefighter tax credits, are all creatures of state statute. There's no specific program that contemplates a municipality refunding or crediting money, and no formula by which a municipality would undertake that, and certainly there's no reference in the general municipal powers sections in Title VII of the general statutes that would give us the authority to be able to undertake that kind of program, and I have various theories as to why that is, but that's not really germane.
So with that in mind, there is an option. The option would be, in the next budget, to apply more unassigned fund balance, which has been used. In fact, it's used in the current budget. It was used in the 18-19 budget. It's been used for many years and across many municipalities. By assigning fund balance, you are essentially saying, we'll look through our expenditures and reach a level we find acceptable. And we will look to various revenue sources, the user fees, state grants, interest on earnings, those elements. And we will use some of our savings to offset the mill rate. Again, we've used that. What I will say is that in discussions during the 1920 budget, the Board of Finance made a concerted point as a total body. I'm not going to say everybody held the same position, but as a body, the common theme was we want to use less fund balance in the budget. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, but as I point out in the motion, what really needs to happen for this to work is a collaboration between the council and the Board of Finance as the budget is being developed. As the council became aware during the last budget process, and I'm sure knew well before that, you don't have the ability to add into the budget once you receive it. So it really requires collaborating with the Board of Finance to determine what is a level that you would all deem acceptable, or maybe, if I'm being a realist, at least a majority of you would deem acceptable to put in as fund balance. So that is an option. It exists. I will, as I pointed out in the motion, point out to you that to the extent you use that, you do run the risk of creating volatility. If you assign fund balance and there's not sufficient savings or other revenue sources to offset it, the subsequent year, that money has to be filled in. So for example, if you used $1 million of fund balance, we ran at budget everywhere, town board of ed, everything was at budget, revenue came in, everything as expected, you would either have to take another $1 million from savings next year, or you would have to increase taxes, fees, something else by $1 million, and or offset with expenditure cuts. So to the extent that you use that, could be perceived as a one-time use of the money. It is a risk that can lead to higher debt loads, more volatile taxes, and other matters. So it's something that I think collaborating and thinking strategically as the legislative and budgetary bodies, if you will, considering the short and long-term implications for the community. No, that's not the answer you probably wanted, but...
Well, it was... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, it's good to get that answer because my point at the last meeting was just a point of discussion, which we have to talk about this, obviously. Any of this would take place in the new budget year, so we're already through this budget year. So, I mean, I think it's good to discuss all this so we know, what we can and cannot do and what we might need to do in the future. But the question, what did we use out of fund balance this year in the budget? What did we use?
Just under 1.2 million.
1.2, okay.
We were actually going to be close to 2.6, which would have been flat year over year, but at the very end, the Board of Finance took a vote to remove both the funding from fund balance and the expenditure for the pension funding.
So, I mean, that's, it's good we get some information. Yeah.
Could we use that for a capital improvement?
Yes.
We could. Like,
In fact, it's not uncommon.
There-
What do you think?
Outfield?
What do you think?
Softball
like an outfield?
Yeah.
You could. Again, I will emphasize this word and probably an annoying number of times. It's projected at this point. We expect the audit to be done in the next few weeks. I've had some preliminary discussions with the auditors about how we will handle the tax revenue that we received for the large taxpayer that is suing us, because it's not only the community, but we're preparing those financial statements for those who might loan us money. Those who don't live in town and may not know everything that's happening, and so it's important that we represent the financial condition of the community appropriately. Not unduly conservative, but we also can't ignore a significant issue.
Yeah, it's an interesting issue that the taxpayer has paid on the value of that property for many years and now disputes it going forward, wants to lower it by many, many millions of dollars, which it's amazing to me that they would even come forward with something like that. But it's, I guess, perhaps for the judge to decide in this case. But you're right, that's a problem. That may or may not happen.
And
Yeah.
you're expecting the audit results by November 1st or later?
I would say by mid-November. It might be sooner. They've pretty much finished off their field work. But I would expect I'll at least have a feel for where the numbers are coming in. The final report likely won't be issued until early to mid-December. It goes through several review steps within the audit firm before it gets published.
Do you get to address those issues raised by the auditor? The town?
Peter,
You mean-
can you use the mic?
Do you get to address the issues raised by the auditors?
Absolutely. They will come forward with a list of either findings, which they haven't had here. There's been no material findings of issue, or just recommendations, and we address those and deal with them. I expect to be sitting down with at least the senior manager, probably the partner, as we talk through if they want to do something significant in terms of reserves for the tax suit. I would want to sit down with the partner and understand the logic, and I would anticipate inviting, we have one member here, but there's two members of the audit committee from the Board of Finance to be a part of that as well, because that's a potentially significant action within the financial report.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You know, the other thing that comes to mind for money for the field, Robin, you're still here, is we're closing out the high school project, and from all, it appears to be perhaps a fairly significant amount of money left in the high school project, which would probably cover the field, the turf field. Remains to be seen how that all shakes out. But I'm just saying that that is still floating around out there. We don't have a.
I would advise to not avail ourselves of the high school money until the audit's complete.
Oh, right, of course.
And typically, the first stage we have to do is get to a stage where the Board of Ed accepts the project.
Understood.
And then we kind of we submit to the state. They'll have 6 months to let us know, and then they kind of put us in line for our audit, which could be a ways off. I don't want to get anybody's hope.
I understand that.
2 years.
No, I understand that.
My projected is likely to end before.
Yeah, but well, you gotta just look at all options, and granted that might be the later option, but you know, where we fund it earlier and some other funds come in, you know, that because that money, whatever's left, goes back to the town fund balance, right, or comes back to the town, I think, correct? After the audit, after the states, after the figure is whatever the figure is.
Correct.
Once the BOE accepts it.
Well, then we'd go through the audit. So if the auditors were to find something, in worst case scenario, and Jeff has done these before, so correct me if I'm mistaken. Yeah. If we were to have serious issues and they were to make something ineligible, we assumed eligible, and I guess theoretically had reimbursed us, we'd have to repay
recover that.
them.
Right.
The other piece I will say is that the Berlin High School project was done under the old state law where they retained 5%. You probably recall, I think a year or two ago, they changed it to 11%. So there is still a retained amount that the state held back on the project. Did I say anything wrong, Jeff?
No, 5% of the grant, that's right.
Charlie, were you going to ask something?
I thought a bonded project, when the money came back, you had to pay down the bond because it was issued for that project. Can we redirect those funds if we want?
Yes, we can. The way that the position the town takes through our bond council is that any bonded project, the town expends bond funds first. So the town issued bonds of $47 million for the high school project. We have spent well in excess of $47 million on the project. So our position is we've expended all of the bond funds. When the money comes back, it would be considered a grant reimbursement from the state. And then certainly the council would have to take action in the Board of Finance to reappropriate that money, but it could be used for others.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. Any questions for? So, again, this was the discussion topic. You know, obviously, whatever we think we will do with this, whatever funds are left, obviously, we know it's all dependent upon the final figure from the audit, and we know, obviously, it is into next budget year, which would be something we'd have to work on with the Board of Finance and the Town Council next budget year to figure out what to do with that extra funding, fund balance, reduce the mill rate, pay for a new field. So those are all certainly lively discussions that I'm sure will happen next budget year. But that's good. That appreciate Kevin the update and explaining it all to us, so we have all are on the same frame of reference. Okay, so we can go on to number.
Agenda item number 3 is a purchase of computers by the Police Department from Winslow Technology Group, LLC. Coming to the council because the second purchase will put us over the $10,000 limit, and it's utilizing a state of Massachusetts contract for purchase. Assistant Chief Susie, anything you want to add?
Chief.
Caught you by surprise there,
huh?
I don't know if you had any questions. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, we're good.
We received funding in this year's budget for replacement of some computers. The second order we like to place goes over the threshold, and Brian Freeman runs our IT downstairs and has a long working relationship with Winslow Technology. They're a Dell reseller, and he uses Dell products, so they're on mass state contract, and we're just looking for approval to move forward with the purchase.
We just wanted you to come up because, you know, we figured you don't want to
That's
keep
fine.
sitting there. You wanted to walk around a little bit. So, yeah, that's all. That's all.
Circulating going on.
There's no questions for the chief. We'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the purchases of computers from Winslow Technology Group, LLC, utilizing the state of Massachusetts contract number ITC 47 for an amount not to exceed $9,525.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Agenda item number 4, we just talked about the 50th year celebration of Timberland Park. This request is to utilize the funds from the T-Sign account for advertising sales revenue, the 2020 season, to underwrite the cost of the Timberland 50th anniversary celebration. John?
Good evening.
Hello.
Hope this is a little bit lighter of a topic. We're looking, in 2018, the council gave authority for Timberland to sell advertising for T-signs. And through the advertising, it was a 2-year contract. It was $950 per sign. And we generated enough income to purchase new T-signs for the golf course at no cost to the town. That 2-year contract is now up. So we're looking to sell T-signs advertising again for year 2020 at $400 for a company that wants to re-up or sign up again, and $500 for a new company that wants to get involved in it. if we were to sell all the signs again to the same companies, it would generate about $7,200. If we were to sell to all new companies, that would generate around $9,000. Basically, what we're looking for, and the Golf Commission is looking for, is to allow the advertising sales in 2020 to be utilized to help fund the 50th anniversary of Timberland Golf Course. And also, Gail Lemieux is here from the Golf Commission, and she also co-chairs the 50th anniversary with Jim Vigella. And she can kind of explain a little bit more what the 50th anniversary board looking to do.
Yeah, so I'm Gail Lemire, 102 Wildermere Road. As you know, it's the 50th anniversary for Timberland Park, and we're really excited to be able to celebrate that, and we think it would be a fun thing to do a community day, a family day at the park. We have our colleagues on the Park and Rec Committee who want to join the efforts, and we've talked to some folks in town. You have a printout, I think, of some of our initial efforts. So we're looking to move forward with this. I think it would be exciting. We're looking for volunteers. We'll be looking for sponsorships. I think it's a great way to celebrate a great asset in this community. So we hope we can get your support for this particular endeavor. And I welcome any questions and welcome anyone who wants to join the committee. We do have some meetings scheduled. We have it posted on the town website.
Thank you. Okay, if we have no questions, go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, I move to authorize the Director of Golf to utilize the T-Sign account advertising sales revenue from the 2020 season to aid in the cost of the Timberland's 50th anniversary celebration.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Yes.
actually have.
Yes.
No, you go ahead.
I was just wondering that, so I see all of these activities, you know, they're great. Are you doing anything, or do you have any ideas or prospects of fundraising?
Yes, we do have some sponsorship folks that we're lining up, and of course this T-Sign money will be towards that fund. And the activities there, that's a brainstorming session. We're not saying we're going to do each of those activities. That's just some initial thoughts we have. And as the committee develops and we get more input and we get the volunteers, we can hone in on what we'll be looking to do.
Okay.
And we'll be looking to have this on July 11th of 2020. So we're getting going as soon as we can, just to get all the funding in place and things like that.
Do we have an idea of what it's going to cost?
No, we need to put our budget together as we hone in on the items. And a lot of it really depended on the motion that you just made to know at least we have some seed money to go with. And then the signs will give us an idea, and then we could look at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Good luck. Look forward to it.
Look forward to
Yeah.
having you participate.
Yeah.
Agenda
there.
item number 5 is a request to purchase a lightning detection sirens from existing funds for the golf course, of course.
In budget year 2018-19, there was $20,000 budgeted for the capital of purchasing and lightning detection. On September 10th, 2019, we went out with an RFP, and we had one response from Turf Products Corporation. Their bid came in at $22,520. What they have in their bid is a 3-year extended warranty for $2,660. At this time, and basically what that would do is give you 24 to 48 hours replacement of any siren that would go down on the golf course. There's 7 sirens on the golf course. The system still could be used if one siren did go down. But considering the proximity of Timberland to Turf Products is in Enfield, Connecticut, we could get 24-hour service and parts within 24 hours, even if we had to drive to Enfield. And the other thing is, if we want to opt, right now we have a 1-year warranty with parts and service. After that, the 3-year warranty would kick in, and if we want to opt into the 3-year warranty after the first year, that's still allowable, so. Yeah, so we're basically recommending turf products for the only bidder for the lightning protection.
Can't go with the other guy.
Only have one choice here. All right, we'll go ahead and take a motion on that.
Okay, I move to approve the purchase of lightning detection sirens from the low bidder Turf Products Corporation of Enfield, Connecticut, in an amount not to exceed $19,860.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6. Funds were allocated in the fiscal year 2020 budget for the camera upgrades, and 2 of the elementary schools and the middle school was completed during the summer. This particular request is for the Griswold School, and Doug Solak is here to, that's you, Doug. To brief you on it.
I know it's past your bedtime. We know. It's past all of our bedtimes too, but we're still here. We're still here.
Good evening, how are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, this is our 4th and final school to receive the camera upgrade, so we're looking forward to doing that.
Great. Good.
Okay.
Okay. Take a motion.
All right, move to utilize the State of Connecticut DAS contract number 17PSX0002 and approve fee proposal number 113949.4 from Security 101, Advanced Security Integration LLC of Plainville, Connecticut, for an amount not to exceed $129,643.22.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7. So this is something that fell through the cracks over 20 years, I believe. The acceptance of
Something else that fell through the
Heritage
cracks.
Drive and Chippins Hill Drive to be accepted as town streets.
Yeah.
Mike Ahern,
So what? What?
it's a little story.
Oh, there always is, right? Yeah, always a story.
Micah Hearn, Public Works. This is the story of 2 streets that sort of fell off the radar a little bit. Heritage, I'll just show you a quick map here. Heritage Estate subdivision is west side of Chamberlain Highway. About
You gotta go
15
on the mic as much as you can, if you can turn it.
I'll just hold it up. It's a light. So it's off the Chamberlain Highway, just south of Orchard Road. These lots were developed. The roads were constructed to town standards. We actually received as-built plan and profile drawings that show that the roads were constructed properly. What happened was the subdivision was developed between 93 and 2003. There was an estate that took over, I think, during the latter part of the subdivision process, so there was some periods of inaction. What happened in 2003 was the P&Z released the subdivision bond, and at that point everyone just sort of quasi-accepted the roads as town roadways, but it never went past that point. It should have come to you and also then to the town clerk. So what we're doing now is we're sort of going back in time and asking for your, we actually had P&Z took another look at it, returned a favorable Section 824 review to accept these roads as town roadways. So now I'm before you. Once you accept them, we can go to Kate and file the documents with the town clerk.
Okay.
Nice.
Great. Okay. Take a motion. on it.
Okay, I move to accept the streets Heritage Drive and Chippins Hill Drive as shown on the as-built roadway drainage plans dated July 15th, 1997, and prepared by MBA Engineering as town roadways.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
The main thing is that their streets got plowed all these years, right? Yeah.
We've been taking care,
I
they are
know.
town roadways. We just have to,
I got it.
the I's cross the
I
T's.
got it.
Thank
We
you.
got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Agenda item number 8 is from Water Control. It's to do with awarding a contract for routine repairs and my emergency for sewer services.
4 items here.
Ray?
Good evening. Basically, this contract is an annual, actually it was a biannual just recently. Drain Doctor was the only one that bid for it last time. This time we had 2 bidders, Drain Doctor and American Rooter. We'd like to issue both of them the contract to go forward with it because occasionally we have Drain Doctor not available, so this works out. The price cost differences were very minuscule.
Okay, take a motion.
Okay, I move to award contract number 2020-03, routine repairs and minor emergency sewer services, including sewer pump stations to both Drain Doctor Inc. of Berlin and American Rooter of Watertown for services used by the water control and other departments on a townwide basis.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion from the town council? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item 9, Ray, this is for you too. This is to increase the contract previously awarded with the fleet pump and service from 35 to 50,000. Give a little background, please.
We originally was approved for $35,000. We do have, and many of these pumps are fleet pumps, as we have specific pumps that we get from our pumping stations. This particular pump at Middletown Road is $17,000. It went over the $35,000 threshold, so I'm coming back and asking for a $50,000 threshold till the end of this fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions? Now we'll take a motion.
Okay, I move to authorize the interim town manager to waive the bidding requirements and increase the previously awarded contract to Fleet Pump and Service from $35,000 to $50,000 for the purchase and/or rebuild of pumps used in our sewer pump stations through June 30th, 2020, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Agenda item number 10 is another bid waiver for the Still Meadow Pump Station.
Paul Santoro, doing business as Intro, basically would be doing the job. Right currently, Bigelow, Paul Bigelow from Bigelow Electric, which we use, went out to Craigslist and eBay to get parts to keep going for the time being, but that wasn't a long-term solution. So Paul Santoro has a proposal in here to actually complete an update that's particular Still Meadow pumping station. It's been having, like we have with many of the other pumping stations, ragging problems, and as a result of that, our pumps really actually kick out very often. We have only single phase, so we can't have a larger pump in here. It's only limited to the electricity we have.
Okay, we'll take a motion on this.
Okay, move to authorize the interim town manager to waive the bidding requirements and award the contract to Introl in the amount of $20,875 for services, parts, and updating the electrical system at Still Meadow Pump Station, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second on that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We abstain.
No,
Huh?
it's on our street. That's what we're talking back and forth.
No. You abstain?
Do I have to?
No.
No. No. No.
You're using it, so.
Unless you own the guy that's charging us more money. I mean,
No,
if you know
I
that
mean, if
guy,
I did
then
that, I mean-
that's a problem. But if you're not, Alex, I hope not. But
It's like right across from your house.
Yeah.
really?
I offer the guys coffee.
Well, that might be a problem now. No, that's not anything to do with you personally. So we're good. We're
Right.
good.
Agenda item number 11, and this is requesting a bid waiver to hire DPC Engineering LLC to complete the design, bidding documents, and oversight of the construction of the updated Deming Road pump station.
I saved the last for the best, and because this is the biggest, actually. DPC, Dave Prickett has done quite a few jobs for us. He did an initial design for this pumping station. Deming Road basically is, and we've heard a few things over the years, receives MDC sewage from Rocky Hill and Newington. We supply about 25% or 20% of the sewage there. That pump station has such a ragging problem that we have physically people go over there almost every other day to fix the pumps. And there's 3 pumps, and they're very poorly located within underground, so it's a confined space, so it's also a hazard. So Dave Prickett has come up with a design. We'd follow up with the wetlands permit. Additionally, if there were, and hopefully there would be, construction next year, he would oversee the construction of that particular project. Deming Road is our second biggest pumping station that we have.
Okay. So all these pumps are coming due now with problems, or just normal maintenance?
They've been problematic right along.
Right along for.
Well, most of the pumping stations at least have 2 and some 3 pumps, and basically when one goes, the other one can't go very much longer without being rebuilt or redone or replaced. That's primarily a problem, and a lot of them have not been replaced for years. As we heard earlier today with other issues, it's just gone to the wayside. It hasn't been touched.
The last time some of these were replaced, out of curiosity, if you know.
I don't even know. I don't have an idea. Some
Really?
of them, for instance, the one on the Berlin pump station, 30, 40 years, something to that effect.
So is this stuff that we'll be budgeting for next year?
I have to budget something every year for some kind of a pump replacement. The 2 bigger ones, hopefully will have some contribution by other entities. The Berlin pump station is, not that this is an issue right now, but I'm hoping to get money from Kensington and Worthington to actually apply. And the Deming Road, I'm hoping to get MDC funds to apply for that.
Great. Thank you. If no other questions, take a motion.
Seconded.
What's that?
Is seconded?
No, we didn't.
I don't think we did a motion yet.
Nope, we didn't get there.
We didn't get to the motion yet.
Wishful thinking.
Sorry, I was jumping the gun.
We're trying to push it along, Kate.
I wrote it down.
We're trying. Believe me, we're trying to push it along. We know how many things are left. It's not pretty.
Okay, I make a motion to move to authorize the interim town manager to waive the bidding requirements and award the contract to DPC Engineering LLC for an amount not to exceed $208,807, which includes a 15% contingency for upgrades at Deming Road Pump Station, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ray.
Great, thank you. Agenda item number 12 is the appropriating the assigned fund balance for the bond anticipation notes of $444,000. This is why we had the town meeting today.
Yes. Okay, so we had our town meeting and we had no problems, so here we are with our motion.
Okay, I move to appropriate $444,000 from the assigned fund balance to the transfers to other funds to account to pay off outstanding bond anticipation notes at their expiration in January 2020.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 13.
Agenda item number 13 is asking you to appropriate the sale of surplus equipment to public buildings and contractual services. Each year we auction some of the equipment to the public through an online auction site, and we have some proceeds from that, and we actually want to use those proceeds to do some work that was planned a year or 2 ago in the town hall building, the main rotunda.
Yeah.
So this is a way to pay for it.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. Take a motion.
Okay.
Do we have questions?
Move to appropriate $4,900 from the sale of labor, land, and materials account to the public buildings contractual services account in the capital non-recurring fund pending approval of the Board of Finance.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item number 14, this is authorizing the interim town manager to enter into a amended project authorization letter with DOT to repurpose some of the funds. The 2 of them are fighting for the mic. Not very good.
Chris Edge, 240 Kensington Road. It's actually a tag team kind of thing here. We've been working with DOT. This essentially goes back to when initially Jim Mahoney had gotten grant monies through the STEEP program for the restoration of our train station. As we all know, the train station had burned down. DOT has finally gotten to the end of their basically closeout on it. Essentially, what we're looking for here is to enter into a new agreement with them. Essentially, we will be looking to get monies back and pay off about $26,000 in monies that are currently owed. Kevin can give more specific information. The good news is we are looking to get money back, which is a good thing, which we can then reprogram to other projects. I'll let Kevin give some more details.
The ultimate resolution, this is going to sound a little circular. There's money left in the project. The town received 2 steep grants. Originally, the train station was going to be done 80% federal, 20% local. The 20% local was originally funded through 2 steep grants. Fast forward, DOT incorporated this as part of the TOD initiative, and in that process, the town turned over $500,000 of the $650,000 in steep grants to DOT to use for the project, retaining $150,000. DOT has done their audit and has said there's $290,000 left to be able to come back to the town, which is what Chris referred to. The town has received conditional approval from OPM to repurpose that money towards the boulevard. Additionally, what DOT is requiring is that the town return the balance of that $150,000 that is left with the town also. This is where the circular part comes in. The town spent money with anticipation of being reimbursed. We will write off that receivable. And there is one final bill to be paid to the engineer who was doing the work. They've actually been waiting quite a while for retainage. Unfortunately, because we paid that money with a receivable, that means the cash in there is not at par with where we need it to be, which is where this second request, which is to transfer money from contingency to be able to fund what we need to pay back to DOT. The town will pay that to DOT, who will give it to OPM, who will then give it to DCD to return it to us through a grant, hence the circular part of this process. So in order to fill in the gap, and page 2 has kind of the math to it, there's a $26,585.52 gap from a cash standpoint in the fund because of the receivable where we were expecting to get federal reimbursement. And we will write that receivable off. This will put the train station project bed, and again, we'll get $38,111.66 back in addition to the $290.
Well, only in the government does that work.
Yeah,
Sort of write less off, you get more money back. It's a great deal, isn't it? Both motions on vote on. Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Then item number 15 is to ask for easements for the development of the new boulevard.
We're currently passing out a larger version of what was in your original council packet, just so you can get a better idea what we are looking at here through the project. Printed the right amount. That almost never happens.
No, I'm gonna need one from you tomorrow.
I'll give you this one.
You can take this one, Kate. You can have this one after.
So I can give this one to Kate as soon as I speak. So what we're looking at here is 2 different easements. So next to Building B, to the left of Building B is the old firehouse, Joel's hair salon. Essentially, it will be an easement with that property owner. Currently, if you look at the driveway, a portion of the parking there is on their parcel, and a portion is on the parcel being sold to Newport. Essentially, be an easement that then the parking can be used by them, but it will actually be constructed and maintained by Newport. Corporation Council will work on language for this, but the nice thing too is this creates, one, a passage in, but also parking for both their building as well as potentially on the bottom of Building B, hopefully be food or other retail that can use the spaces back there. The second is, if you look just to the right of Building A, we've had an easement to the building in back, which is Amco Precision, for a number of years. What we're asking them to do, and they've agreed to, is to move the easement, I guess, I don't know directionally, but let's say to the left in this map. What that will allow is to give parking places to the right-hand side of this road and the left-hand side, where previously where it was, we would not have gotten 2 rows of parking. Essentially what it is, it's moving it slightly, and it's now giving an extra set of parking spots on the right. It is fully agreeable with them. We need to work on the language with the folks at 883, which is a Joel's building, but I have spoken with the son who's going to be taking control of the building with Corporation Counsel. But again, this is going to move us forward with what we're doing, and just looking for your approval for us to move forward with Corporation Counsel to make those both happen.
Joel happy with that solution? Joel's, are they happy?
Yeah, I need to sit down with his son.
Okay.
The issue at this point is this easement's being put in place for their benefit.
Okay.
Because essentially they have half a parking, basically have half of a bunch of parking spots. It's just explaining to this through the easement itself.
Right.
They want to make sure they can keep use of it. It'll take a little time, and they've thrown around different things like we've used it for this long and other words, and I've just kind of said, let us get something to you to look at and we can begin the discussion. But realistically speaking, we own this. It's the driveway to 889, and I think we're being very helpful and kind, as well as Newport, in doing this. So we've been working with them. There is some confusion on it, but I think talking with the son, he and I are on the same page, understanding that we're not looking to do anything to hurt anybody. In fact, we want everybody's property values to go up, and more importantly, get one really good tenant for that bottom floor. So it's an ongoing conversation, but I know too, once we can get language from Corporation Counsel, sit down, work through it, and then we can make it work with them.
Thank you. And AMCO is happy with that too?
Very happy, absolutely. There were a couple different setups for it. Their big issue is getting the 18-wheelers in, but they're very happy.
Great. Motion?
Okay. Move to authorize the interim town manager to enter into agreements to relocate an easement on 913 Farmington Avenue in favor of 921 Farmington Avenue, to create an easement on 889 and 903 Farmington Avenue in favor of 883 Farmington Avenue, and to move forward with the development of a boulevard from Farmington Avenue to the Berlin train station, including entering into an easement agreement with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and to move forward with the capping of 889 Farmington Ave, to implement an engineering control variance ECV approved by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, subject to the review and approval of easement agreements by the Corporation Council.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And item number 16 is a revision to a contract with Laredo Engineering to do additional investigations and for the installation of monitoring of wells on 889 Farmington Avenue.
This actually is going to be not on 889. It's actually going to be across the street at 848 Farmington Avenue. So it would be on the very beginning portion of Depot Crossing. Essentially, we want to verify that there's no contamination going underneath the road to the other side of the road. Essentially working with the current property owner as well as potentially new property owner on that. And it really is to give us an idea on whether or not it's going across, and if not, what steps we take on the side of the road with 861 and 889.
Okay. Ongoing issues always with the pollution, right?
We need to figure out exactly where it's going to make the
Right.
plan so we can get approval from DEP, because if we can't say where it ends, it's kind of like digging that hole and not knowing where the bottom is.
Never ends, yeah, I get it.
I mean, the good news is we're using state grants on this one. It's frustrating from my standpoint too, because I'd like some final answers so we can move forward, as I'm sure this council as well.
Absolutely. The gift that keeps on giving, right? So we can
It is.
end it somewhere. Okay, we'll take a motion on this.
Okay, move to waive the bidding process in the best interest of the town and authorize the interim town manager to enter into a contract amendment with Laredo Engineering in the amount of $37,840 for the installation of 3 new wells on the south side of Farmington Avenue to be paid from the demolition and environmental remediation account.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Agenda item number 17 is a release that we are asking the town council for the sale of Depot Crossing that Newport plans to buy. There's 11-year restriction, and we're asking you to release it.
Oh, that was the majority of it. Yes, when the agreement was signed initially with CIL, when they were chosen through an RFQ process, we had said they cannot sell it for 11 years. This essentially is asking you to waive that 11 years in order for Newport Realty Group, who's doing our mixed-use development, to purchase the property. They're under contract right now, working through due diligence. The good news is there was a great article in the Meriden Record Journal highlighting what they're doing. So this really is assisting the town to authorize them to do it so they can move forward. We are keeping the 4 affordable units in place there because we do need to keep pushing towards that 10%. So really the only change is we're going to have a different owner, and with my discussions with them, they already have some great ideas and plans for the first floor, investing in it, and then having folks come in and make a difference and hopefully give us some things we don't have. So I mean, for me it's been exciting because I know that they have vision. They're going to put somewhere north of $20 million in our community on both sides of the road, and they really see this as an underperforming asset that they can turn into something we can be proud of.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged by Newport Realty, so.
Me too.
Okay.
Yes.
How many units total are they gonna build?
Right now, there's 16 on site. They have not given any plans on what they're going to do going from here. I'm sorry. 76 on 889, 903, and 913.
You can do that for 20 million, but we can't build 50 units for 15 million. I'm confused.
I do not know.
Also, what happens to the $175,000 of taxpayer money that we gave to CIL to make that building happen? Do we get that back when the property transfers?
I did not know we put $175,000 into it, so I do not have an answer to that question.
You gave them $175,000?
My memory serves us right. There was a bank that was owed that much money and the deal wouldn't close. So the administration at that time put $175,000 of Berlin taxpayer money into that building.
Make the deal go?
Make the deal go.
Yeah.
So how many years in are we?
Oh,
5?
Longer. It's out of the liver.
A bit longer than that, I think, when CIL bought it, right?
Should that be apportioned?
I have no knowledge of it, so I can't speak to it. I don't know.
Worth asking CIL and or corporate counsel here about that? What do you think?
I don't have any documents. If
Right.
it's signed, get it to me and I'll give you an opinion.
It says the condition expires on January 22nd, 2025, so
5 years.
5 years.
It's been in 5 years, okay, so it's worth looking at to see if we could recover some, right, taxpayer money?
Yeah, we can definitely look into it, no question. Yeah, again, I don't know what the agreement was. I know that was one of those that, again, had gone from owner to bank to no man's land to then CIL being chosen, so I don't know the whole history that was before my
Yeah,
time.
it was a mess, but nonetheless, if we kicked in taxpayer money, if we could get some back now that it's changing hands, we'll have to check it. Mr. D'Onofrio could check on that, if we could find the agreement, which must be somewhere, I would imagine.
It's probably on the land records if there was anything done
from
a town perspective, but we can do some digging.
That's how we got the caveat they had to hold it for 11 years.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Memory serves me right.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can probably also find out what they've paid in taxes since they've owned it as well. I don't know if that's going to make a balance, but we can take a look at that. That's not a
I'm
huge thing.
excited that a new owner might actually do something with the building. This will be a wonderful thing when it happens. It's just, if we can get some of the money back we put into the deal, we should try.
As I recall, wasn't that a steep grant?
I thought it was Berlin money we gave to, I was upset because we subsidized the bank. The deal wouldn't happen because the bank said, we're gonna lose money. CIL couldn't pay the asking price and make the project work. And the council at that time said, well, we'll just give you $175,000 of our taxpayer money to make up the gap and make the project work.
I think
May be mistaken, but that's the way.
I remember there was some different pricing that went back and forth. I've got large files of this when it had gone through. I can see what I can dig up on that one.
All right.
Chances are pretty good that no. Steep monies are usually used for actual building, construction, renovation types of things. I don't think they would use those monies as a whole filler on financing. But again, I can't say that for certain, but I can definitely do some digging.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So we'll go ahead and, if we all agree to this, go ahead and take a
Okay.
motion on this.
I move to authorize the interim town manager to release Depot Crossing, Inc. from its commitment not to resell the property at 848 Farmington Avenue in Berlin within 11 years in order to allow the property to be sold to Newport Realty Group, LLC, subject to the review and approval of Corporation Council.
Second, but I'd like to have a point of discussion.
Sure.
If we vote in the affirmative to push this forward, that releases CIL of any obligation. So if that is a path we do decide to go down, we would have to kind of explore that first and probably turn it down tonight, correct?
The review of the Corporation Council, won't it?
Well,
If we release them from the 11-year,
Well, I don't know if that, we'll release them from, if we're looking to recoup some money, does that matter?
That's the only leverage we have.
There's no reference to any money from the town in the agreement that's part of the agenda packet.
Okay.
There is reference in that agreement to a 2013 developer agreement that was amended in 2013 as well. So it'd be nice if I could see a copy of the development agreement and find out whether or not there's any reference to any funding from the town and whether there's any strings attached to that.
Except we're easy here.
Okay. Hence, if we approve this, we wouldn't be able,
authorize basically.
wouldn't be
saying
able
the
to do
sale
that,
can go
right?
Forward, and then how do we recoup our money?
Well, there's not been a release executed yet, so we certainly can
make the motion.
investigate whether or not there's in fact any funds that the town would have a right to claim reversion of, and, in 2 weeks, report back on it.
So we pass this, it's fine.
Yeah, until you sign a release.
Yes,
it's
right.
not released.
Yeah, okay.
All you're doing is authorizing the next step.
Right.
If you find out that there's funding,
Right.
then we'll have to deal with it.
Can we reconsider if we have to?
Well, you could always rescind your vote
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
based on new information.
We good with that?
I'm good.
Yeah, okay. All right, so did we, you made your second with that condition, so we've covered that. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Agenda item number 18, I think it was in August, the town of West Hartford sent a resolution on gun violence, and a couple of meetings ago, Councilor Pagliaro asked that we place it on the agenda for discussion, so it's here.
Okay, it's here for discussion.
So the other thing that happened since this, another.
Aaron, can you go on mic?
Sorry. So another thing that happened since this was passed by West Hartford is another community did the same thing. So considering how much talk has been in the town about security at our schools and, talking about Sandy Hook, I think it would be prudent and the right thing to do for our council to do this as well.
Okay. Other thoughts? What are we thinking? Charlie?
I think there's an awful lot of gun laws on the books that aren't enforced. I don't think laws are gonna change a problem in society. Drugs are outlawed, how's that working out? I mean, in this resolution, it talks about a high-capacity assault weapon. Assault weapons are machine guns, they're already outlawed. There is no such thing as a high-capacity weapon, it would be a high-capacity magazine. I don't think we're really equipped to debate all these items that you really need experts to discuss. I'm against any kind of violence. I would support a resolution, against violence, but
Not against.
Not
gun
against
violence.
specific weapons and guns that's
Yeah,
called out.
I agree. So, what about better background checks? You against that as well?
No, I'm not against background checks, I'm not against
The
limiting
resolution
violence.
Gun violence prevention measures.
But I don't think this resolution, as it's written, is factual. It's not realistic.
Well, it's merely calling for Congress to research gun violence and adopt comprehensive gun reform. You're right, if we don't know what we're doing, and we can't do it. This tells Congress to study the subject before they go ahead and do it.
Or maybe
I think this answers your question.
Or maybe rescind the law that says that mentally ill people can purchase
guns.
You know,
Hmm.
which has occurred under the Trump administration.
Exactly.
So,
I'm not aware of that law, and I certainly don't want mentally ill people having weapons, and definitely we need better mental health in this country.
I mean, it's the first time, we've looked at this, it's certainly not our resolution, much like another resolution we passed recently, we reworded it, we looked at it, just to go ahead and, I don't know, I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish, but I think we're all everyone's against gun violence. I mean, I don't think that's an issue
Well, if
at
we
all.
are, then why aren't we going to move forward?
Because I think the language in here might need some working to tailor it to what we want to say in Berlin. I mean, it's great what West Hartford or other towns have said.
Can you give me an example of what you feel?
Well, it's not what I feel, it's what everybody feels, but it's given us a little
Obviously,
time.
not everybody, since 3 of us would vote for it.
A little bit of time to digest it. I mean, I certainly can give you my 30 years in law enforcement perspective on more federal laws, because there are many, many, many federal firearm statutes that I enforced, and the problem was not that we had laws on the books, the problem was that we didn't get them prosecuted, and judges threw them out of court. So, it's a very complex issue. What I've seen, I'm just drawing upon my experience in 30 years at the Justice Department with DEA. When I see the arguments that make no sense because people that are writing them don't have any background to make those arguments, it's disturbing to me. So, I might word this a little bit differently. I'm not sure how I would in 5 minutes talking about it. I mean, it's a very complex issue
So I guess
to be taken seriously. So I think, if we have a little time to digest it and maybe change some wording that maybe it's all we're certainly singling out gun violence, domestic violence, there's many types of violence we are all against, I'm sure. So,
This was given to us in August. It's now mid-October. So, saying that we just saw it in 5 minutes is the most ridiculous statement I have heard.
this is the first time we've discussed it as a council, correct,
But
on our
it's been
agenda?
it was submitted to us in August.
Okay.
And so you're saying you didn't read what you were given in August?
I read through it quickly, yes.
Okay.
But now we're
But now
discussing
that it's here, why can't we just move forward? Nobody wants to see children killed, adults killed, and let's face it.
Of course
it's
not.
happening all the time.
And we're not
So
saying
why
that.
don't we move forward?
I'm not sure how this is going to stop that from happening.
Well, same thing with the tolls, too,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the tolls, I think you just wrote that you needed more information. I'd like some more information, too, before I vote on it.
Well, that wasn't what you guys did. You pushed it through.
No, we didn't. We redid that.
Yes, you did.
No, we didn't. We redid that.
Oh, you pushed
to
it
Berlin.
through. You know it.
No, we rewrote it. We rewrote it, which was specific to Berlin roads. If you read the resolution, you would know that. I'm sorry, but that's what we did. Even Speaker Arasimowicz told me he was okay with it because we tailored it to why Berlin was concerned about it. It wasn't just what the state is worried about, it was how it would affect the roads in Berlin.
Speaker
was the point.
Arasimowicz thought it was a waste of time as well.
That's not what he said to me, so.
Yeah, and I think
May
that.
I offer a specific?
Sure.
One of the sentences in here, high-capacity assault weapons serve no legitimate purpose in civilian society. That's a very slippery slope. A big,
How is that a slippery
a double
slope?
quarter pounder with cheese serves no legitimate place in our society. We're going to outlaw that.
You're going to take
An 800
food
horsepower.
and things that kill people? Oh, my God.
An 800 horsepower sports car
Really ridiculous, Charlie.
serves no reasonable purpose in our population. Are we going to get rid of those because they don't have a purpose in our society?
Oh, my God.
Have any of you on this side of the aisle gone through the permitting process to get a concealed permit?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Have you gone through the permitting process or asked about what it takes to get a concealed permit or just a carry permit?
Actually,
or
I have not, but my father has, and I learned how to use a gun when I was 12.
Okay, so when-
I'm not gun adverse.
So when you
what
do
I am
that-
is what's happening in our world and in our state. I mean, let's face it, there was shootings in New Britain when I was quite a bit younger. It's happened at Sandy Hook. It happens time and again, and the rhetoric we see at the federal government is allowing it to happen and pushing it. We've seen all of these people going into Walmart and other things, killing people. Why can't we do this?
My point was that there are enough background checks here in Connecticut. When you
There
go,
are, and we know.
you have to get a town background check from your town police, and then you get a federal background check before your permit gets issued here in Connecticut. And you have to pay $140 in the state of Connecticut to do that. There isn't another constitutional amendment where you have to pay to exercise your right that's guaranteed in the Constitution.
They don't check for mental illness.
Well, a resolution says nothing about that in here.
That's a
We live in a state where we let out criminals for good behavior. And I think that
How all of this is relative to a gun violence prevention resolution.
some of the statistics that just came out said 60% of the gun violence and the gun deaths in the country are suicides. So where is that in this resolution? How do we tell people that, you know, we need more money for mental health and suicide prevention? It's not here. You know, to me, this is, it needs to be changed. I can't support this. I'm not voting for it.
All right, then let's,
Well, today's a discussion on the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution as written and presented to the council.
Well, it's a discussion on the agenda, so
Second it?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded.
well, I'd like to see it rewritten as well and brought back to the next council meeting. So I wouldn't vote in favor of it because I think there's some things in here that just don't make any sense, and that's just based upon my 30 years dealing with gun violence.
who will be rewriting it?
We all can take, we'll start with a Roche as we do with the tolls.
Wrote this
And
one.
Jeff,
we'll
do
look at-
I have the right to make a motion as I just did?
I'm looking to see whether this is an action item on the agenda, because it does just say discussion, so the proper way to have it be an action item would be to move to add it to the agenda as an action item. That would be the first motion.
Okay, I move to add it to the agenda as an action item.
Second.
Okay,
Now I can,
Discussion and a vote.
discussion, further discussion?
I believe we need to make the resolution to pass on to Congress, just as 2 other towns have done.
I have to recuse myself from this.
Sure.
Understandable. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a vote on making it an action item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay?
Abstain.
So 3-3 tie vote?
Yep, got it.
Tie vote. But, again, this is not that we can't reconsider this and change it. I mean,
I'll wait and see if,
somebody else wrote it, right? We just don't normally in the town of Berlin on the town council take what another town does and make it ours. At least in my 4 years, we've never done that. We've tailored it to what Berlin wants to say, not what West Hartford or whatever other town decided to vote on it.
well, it's obviously not an action item now, so go for it.
Well, it's a discussion, we still can discuss it. End of discussion, I take it? Anyone else wants to discuss it? Okay, we'll work on
I
it.
just want to know who's going to be rewriting it.
Yeah, I
that's
do
all.
too.
Well, we all would have a hand in it if that's the way it should work. We could all work together.
Who rewrote the toll one? Was it you, or was it one of your fellow?
No, it was actually Jack Healy, and then brought it back to the council, and we looked at it.
So perhaps we need to work it that way then.
We could have Arosh work on it. We can give him input.
Or perhaps,
We could have Jeff work on it.
Let me know what your specific concerns are. I mean, I wouldn't know where to start, quite frankly, because I'm not.
I like it the way it is, and I think my
I heard
fellow
what Charlie said
Democrats agree.
about, high-capacity assault weapons, so I'm not sure if that's something that you would propose being deleted.
Well, there just is no such thing.
Would we add all violence? Or would we make it specific just to gun violence?
Gun violence.
It's gun violence
prevention.
Okay.
The only thing that I saw in here that I would ask you to consider is, and I don't know this area of the law, but the last sentence talks about a federal registry for dangerous weapons offenders. Is that a defined term somewhere?
question.
Yeah, no.
You know. So you might want to, if it's not, you may want to define it.
Doesn't a red flag law violate your right to due process?
Absolutely.
What's that?
Wouldn't a red flag law violate your right to due process?
Connecticut has a red flag law already. In fact, Connecticut has 92 gun statutes, only to be, I think the only state that has more statutes regulating firearms is California with 107, as far as I know. So a lot of this, certainly the state of Connecticut has covered. But yeah, we'll I guess work on the language and see if we can come up with something a little bit better for all of us.
Okay.
We can make it a project that we all work together on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to email your comments to me, I'll be happy to work with Jeff and come up with a resolution.
Thank
Okay,
you.
what we should do is we could create a Word version of
It's done.
we could circulate it, and then we could just redline it, and then we can compare and see where we have common comments. There's gonna have to be dialogue about it, obviously, because
Yeah,
if we're gonna get 7 or 6 different versions, then we're not gonna, Roche and I aren't gonna know how to reconcile it.
No, then we just won't accept it as well.
Yeah.
You know, so what's gonna end up happening in 2
Thank
weeks
you.
is we'll be back
I'll
here
send you
with
my
6 different
thoughts, Arush.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Thank
Which
you.
is fine if you wanna do it that way. It would just be nice to have some idea what types of revisions you have in mind, and maybe the way to do that is just get us the red line. If you circulate to the council a Word version, you can track changes, and then we can compare and try to come up with one version if there's common edits. Otherwise, you'll have 6 versions in front of you in 2 weeks.
Do we know what red flag laws are, just out of curiosity? Anyone who wants to look up? Do we even know what that means?
Usually means that anybody could say that they don't trust you with the guns that you have, and someone's going to come in and confiscate them, and you will lose your due process rights. It's happened to many military people and other people across the country where they've established these laws, and I think that's a problem.
We have to look at I don't know what the Connecticut statute said. There is a statute, I believe, in Connecticut. I think the Connecticut statute, you have to go to a judge, if I'm not mistaken. You don't have to? I believe you do.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. But again, that's just that was my point, that to vote blindly for something that it appears that many of us on the council, including myself, don't know the answer to some of these questions in the bottom paragraph. So to recommend something that I don't even know what it means, I don't know why anyone would vote to do that until we at least educate ourselves intelligently about what this resolution is hoping to accomplish.
My understanding is that in Connecticut, there is a red flag law that's referred to as a risk warrant, so I assume that's issued by a judge.
Yes, I believe that's the case.
They remove, so the red flag laws here, if somebody they think is a potential risk to themselves or others, they can go in and take it. I've seen that happen all the time in home care, where we see clients that are ill, angry, mentally ill, and it happens all the time to the safety of the people in the home. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is I think that Connecticut's version of a red flag law when it comes to firearms is a risk warrant, which is issued by a judge. So you'd have to go to a judge with probable cause and get that judge to issue.
Which is oftentimes.
So then, how does
'Cause the
different
violence has
police
already occurred.
departments go into homes and take out guns of people who put others at risk?
You can do it. We've done it on the federal level, but at some point it's got to go back, unfortunately, to them.
So what I've seen is the guns go to another family member. And you're shaking your head, but I have.
No, I'm saying sometimes that might be the case. I'm not saying no, I'm saying,
I'm not sure. I'm just telling you what I've seen.
I mean, typically, we seized a weapon in Sandy Hook 2 days after the shooting. And a person was at risk that had it, but we took it. We just took it because it was the right thing to do. We had no legal process to take it, quite frankly. But we did, and ultimately it did go back. And to your point, I think we gave it back to the person's parents. But all technically illegal on our part as a law enforcement officer, but we did it for the safety of the community, but.
I can't hold back.
I didn't think you could.
I'm
but-
not going to render any opinion. I'll just elucidate the statute. It's Connecticut General Statute 2938.
Thank you.
It references, I believe it's 2938, references risk warrants, which is, red flags are the colloquial term for what Connecticut refers to as risk warrants. Essentially, a risk warrant is anybody who's deemed a danger to themselves or others, as determined by the police officer, can apply to the court for a risk warrant, which is essentially a search warrant. It allows the officer to go into that person's home or place, place, or thing to be searched with probable cause to seize these firearms. Within 10 days or 14 days, I believe, the court dockets a hearing to continue probable cause so that the person's due process rights are heard. Within that 2 week, it's 2 weeks. Within that 2 week hearing, it's either determined to continue if probable cause exists or declined. So at that point, it could be extended in Connecticut, or it could say it should have never been signed, or there's no probable cause, or the person's fine now, and they can go back. If someone is determined to be a risk to themselves or others, now you're going into criminal procedure, and essentially what an officer has at their disposal is to secure a scene, if you will. If someone's a danger to themselves in their home, you could secure that home, not essentially do a search, but remove that person from that home, get that risk warrant signed, and then go serve it on the house, so then that person won't be able to gain access to their firearms. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Thank you.
law enforcement doing that, though. That a private citizen can't do that, right?
Well, a private citizen would have to make a statement to a sworn law enforcement officer, yeah.
They gotta get the warrant.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. I mean, that's what I thought the Connecticut law was, but, so obviously with that, there's a lot of questions about a lot of things on this, resolution, so hopefully we can resolve some of them and, bring it back and talk about it. Thank you all for a very lively discussion. Number 19?
Agenda item number 19. So all of you recall Merrick Kozakowski, town planner, left, accepted a job in Middletown, and this agenda item is requesting you to authorize me to appoint Maureen Tuesday to serve as acting town planner effective October 7, 2019. She's been pretty much doing the work since then until we figure out what we want to do. And this is according to the union contract, when manager or when you're acting or on an interim basis, obliged to give them a 7.5% increase of their base salary.
Okay.
What is the base salary? Do you know?
It's
Just curious.
about 83.
Got it.
I think we should give her a shot at this. I've worked with her in the past to clean the cars out of Berlin Steel. It's very effective. Was punctual. I mean, she kept me apprised by email, and I think it'd be a good idea.
I think
Yeah,
she's great, too.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Since she was interim the last time, and since then she also went back to school and got her certifications.
That's great.
So she has all the credentials for town planner.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, fortunately, Merrick left us, and I had a discussion with him. Arosh did. His reason is no secret. He liked Berlin, but he moved to a bigger town, being Middletown, and more pay, more benefits. So, he left begrudgingly, but for his family, we talked about it. It was the right thing to do for him. So,
Was that an abbreviated time he gave us notice? How much notice did he give us?
it's like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would assume he. I don't know this, but I assume he waited for whatever he got approved, maybe by or hired by Middletown. I don't really know. He didn't go into that, but yeah, within the 2 weeks' time, we spoke. But he, or a bigger town.
Long enough for his report to get approved.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. Right. He did. Yeah. No. He liked Berlin. He just can't begrudge the man a higher salary and more benefits. Right.
I'm gonna support this resolution, but maybe this isn't the time. Is there any way where we could realign some of the duties and have one person be the zoning and town planner and move some of the zoning mundane stuff to the building inspectors? How, maybe we could save a position and realign, because I get a lot of complaints from contractors that our process is very cumbersome going through all the different departments. And a lot of it's stuff the building inspector could just check off. I mean, if you get a new furnace, it has to go through our zoning department, which seems like a waste of the zoning officer's time and a frustration for the contractor.
So my response is yes, we should look at functions, probably a good time to look at these things, but I doubt you can eliminate a position, combine them, because there's one person who Maureen used to do the zoning enforcement. That by itself takes a good
Well,
amount of time, and I'm not sure whether the building
I don't
inspector can do that.
know many how is it? She's going to do both for the moment.
Well,
And
that's
what I'm saying is maybe we could reallocate some of her duties to other positions. I'd like to look at that, that's all. I don't know how or when we do that how that comes about.
I mean, that's for the future, but for the current, I am concerned that, I mean, I think she's a great choice to be our acting, an interim, but I know she does a lot of work as a zoning enforcement officer. I don't think we could put that on her to do both jobs. It'd be very, very unfair to her. So how will we cover the zoning enforcement?
So I've already asked Maureen and a couple of others in the field to see if we can at least find someone who's retired or part-time.
Oh, okay.
Because it is, just based on the volume that comes to that office, it would be impossible for her to manage.
No, we can't ask her to do that. No, absolutely.
there.
So that's what I'm concerned though, because I don't want the zoning enforcement job to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not that she'd let it happen, but we can't do that to her. So we're gonna. Is there someone in town hall that could help at least before we find that person? I mean, because we make her acting tonight. I'm sure she's already.
She's all
acting. No, I get, and she's stepping up and doing the right thing, and we're all behind her. But I worry that she can't do it all. And
I mean, there are bodies, and you can't just move anybody. Somebody.
I know. It's a little bit of a technical.
It is.
Yeah.
Technical expertise
Right.
required.
Well, I would just ask the fastest you can find someone or help her out. Because we want her to be able to focus on the town planner job and not overburden her. If we could, yeah, whatever we can do would be great. Okay, so we'll take a motion.
Okay, move to authorize the interim town manager, Arosha Jayawikrima, to appoint Maureen Giusti to serve as the acting town planner, effective retroactive October 7th, 2019. During this period of time, she will be paid a stipend of 7.5% of her regular wages. The duration of this appointment may continue through, but now shall not exceed the start date of the successor town planner.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Right. Appointments, we have one appointment. Take a nomination.
Okay, I'll nominate Joe Pulsini for the Park and Recs opening.
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor, Mr. Pulcini? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Mr. Pulcini. Where are we at now? Where are we at?
Town manager.
Town manager's report.
Do you want to take a break? I have a long report.
Uh,
Just kidding.
Yeah.
So you have a two-pager.
I actually need to take a break and call Alex's boss, tell him he's out late tonight, so he might be a little bit late tomorrow morning because I know he's missing his sleep, but
So very quickly, you have a two-pager. Hopefully, you had some time to look at what's going on in on the town manager's report, things happening in the town. And just one thing, I was pleased to hear the emergency management group, they worked with Everbridge to use the notification system. And when I came in, I was oriented about that telephone tree that we had to use on paper, so it's no longer in practice, so everybody can use the Everbridge system. And also, this is they're in the process of getting all the residents' telephone numbers, everything onto a system, and they already used it once when you have notifications for a group of residents or a certain area that water main breaks or anything else that you might have. and directly reach out to the residents as well. It's an ongoing process because not many people, I mean, a lot of people have landlines, but the most effective way is to get everybody's cell phone so they can text message everyone. So, but making a lot of progress, which is great.
I think I need to apologize. Do you, does everybody have a Roche's report?
Yeah.
We have it.
Okay, good.
We have it.
Because I don't, and I was
He has
afraid that when it didn't go in the packet.
we got it.
You're the one who made the copies. Yeah, you want mine?
That's all right.
So, any questions? Other than that, I have no other comments.
We just started with that plan, right? A while ago? A year ago?
Yeah, about
Kate,
a year ago.
your headaches?
Yeah.
It's a great way to do that. We've used it. It's really great.
No, it's great we moved into the 20th century at least. Town hall, that's,
Has the town, or have you ever heard about going for emergency management training down in Anniston, Alabama with FEMA? It's free training with the federal government for emergency management. It's excellent training.
Yeah, so we're planning to do a tabletop exercise with the state. That's happening in December. You know, which is great. I've heard about the Alabama thing, but
I went there in
not
March.
probably many people can go with budgets and all that, but the local one, I think a lot of people might be able to participate and just mentally go through the exercise of emergency planning and preparedness. So that's something we are trying to do in December, first week of December, at least get the core team together. And the state is working with all of the towns to go through a tabletop exercise to have your team in action to sort of mentally go through and work through the exercise. So that's what we have for right now.
Okay.
Okay. Any special committee reports? Having none, Council Communications? I just have one, Chris Edge, could you just make sure, so we have that, we plan the economic development.
Yeah, the forum will be in the foyer Thursday evening at...
Could we, I don't know, I haven't seen anything out there at all. Can we make just sure it's for the residents, it's for them? Because there's just always a lot of questions from everybody I talk to. No matter how much we publicize what we do, if they want to come and hear it firsthand, that would be great on what the town has been doing.
What
So,
time?
what time is that, Chris?
Right now, we're looking at doing it like 6 to 7, I think, to give us one number.
Sure, yeah.
The 24th.
Thursday the 24th.
So what's that, next Thursday, right? Is that next Thursday? No, next Thursday? Yeah. And, yeah, so if you could get it, is it too late to get it in the Citizen? Or at least, I'm sure, online with the Citizen at a minimum?
We'll reach out to Devin in the morning.
And Devin, so Devin's right here. What do you think, Devin? Could we get it in the paper? Let's just settle this now, huh? Okay, that'd be great. And the town website, we could get it on, obviously.
I have to be sent something, but yes.
On the front, Oh, yeah, no, he needs, he will.
It's this week or next week?
Next week, it's next week.
Which is the 24th.
So however we can publicize it,
That in mind.
so people can ask questions. That's what it's for. It's about, we could present, but it's not for us to present. It's for people to ask questions and get the right answers.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
I've been asked, this is a hot button issue for Berlin. I've been asked a bunch of times about the bridge opening. Is it still on target for opening?
Today is the day that's supposed to open, so I just went by. It's not open.
Yeah.
It's not open.
Yeah, a couple people called me today. They're like, "What's going on with the bridge?" I'm like, "Dude,
Today was the day?
Yeah.
They said October 15th.
Was it today?
Actually, Mike Ahan and I went there last week and spoke to the contractor. Yep, 15th will be open, and it's still closed. So,
Do we know?
so their date is November. They're doing it early, so I don't know. I mean, last week they said it's 15th, and it's not open. So we'll find out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be, should be the next couple of days. They just had to finish the paving and remove the signs and move those Josie barriers.
If you don't mind, just
Oh, God, no, let's hope it's open before.
you could just send me an email if you hear anything.
Certainly, yeah. I'll follow up and.
Okay. Thank you.
We got somebody that exit out and put 16th?
Yeah.
All right,
Till
well,
midnight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, great.
we got plenty of time. Okay, so we're done with that. So where are we at? Where are we at?
Minutes.
Oh, minutes, acceptance of minutes. Motion to accept the October 1st town council meeting minutes.
Okay, so moved.
Second on that?
Sec-
Tired. I don't want to read anything.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now, we'll move into, make a motion to,
Before you do that,
yes? Yes, ma'am. What do we need to
I
do?
want to add real estate,
Another agenda item.
Oh,
in executive, you're going to add, into executive session, real estate on, Lincoln Street.
166 Lincoln Street.
Yep. So, you need a motion on that?
Yes, to add it into executive session.
okay, I make a motion to add into executive session, item F, real estate, for 166 Lincoln Street, Berlin,
Second.
Kensington.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's in there, so we'll take a motion to move to executive session,
Okay,
9:30.
move to go into executive session for real estate, Connecticut General State Statutes 1-200-6D and 1-200-6E, discussion of the potential sale of real estate and related assets, water sewer infrastructure, and pending litigations, Connecticut General Statutes 1-200-6 Part B, strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation. We have Kokomo Brothers Associate LLC, Helen Riggins, Rio Vista Associates LLC, Rocky River Realty Company, Teresa Tanina, and real estate on 166 Lincoln Street.
Okay, and who we inviting in? So we've got Roche, Corporation Counsel, we have, Attorney, yes?
For the first agenda item, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If I may invite Kevin and.
Oh, yes, right,
both of
yes,
them
that's what I'm just trying to make it sure, right?
for this discussion.
Yep, okay. So we have everybody covered?